Hello everybody and welcome back. My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. I want to thank you guys for joining me for another Silmarillion Total War battle. This is done on our test build. It is a 2v2 involving the new faction, the House of Fingolfin, and there's some pretty cool strategies employed by both sides. So without any further ado, let's hop into it. Hope you enjoy. And so, let's take a look at some of our army compositions here. We'll go through them as quickly as I can. So the first army we're going to look at is the House of Fingolfin, being played by myself. Surprise. I've got 4 of the Herdsmen of Dor-lómin. These are low-tier spears that look like they could be mid-tier. A little bit deceptive, I guess. But aside from their kick-ass appearance, they also have some pretty good stats as well. Not amazing, but they are basically militia from the House of Hador. I've got 4 of them, 2 here on the wings, and then 2 out in front. And my center line is pretty typical. It consists of 3 of the Sentries of Hithlum, 3 of the Bladesmen of Barad Ithel in addition to, and I stack them together to make a formidable front line, and they kind of work together and are just very formidable. Far more so than they would be on their own. I've also got 2 of the Armatar of Barad Ithel, kind of forgot their name for a second there. The idea behind them is they are a detachment of the Bladesmen of Barad Ithel, but the way that this particular detachment works is a bit different for the House of Fingolfin, just to add them a little bit of flavor, but they're also a really strong support unit. There's only 60 of them, as you can see here, but they have increased stats over the regular Bladesmen of Barad Ithel and a minor Inspire effect of +2. They make a really good kind of budget General's Bodyguard. Actually, my bodyguard is going to be one of these 2 units. Not this one, there's one a little bit closer to the center. You can see them over there. I've also got 2 Marksmen of Barad Ithel, and that's going to play into the strategy, which I'll talk a little bit about. I've also got 2 Marines of Venyamar. These are dedicated skirmishers, so they are armor-piercing projectiles, but their melee stats are a little bit worse. So the way that some units kind of work, we'll see some of them a little bit later on. I'll talk about them when we get there. It'll make a little bit more sense. But bear in mind that they are skirmishers, and so they're going to have decreased melee stats. Here I have 1 unit of the Blade Masters of Barad Ithel. They are kind of the leftovers in my army. Go ahead and turn it down just a bit more. We just don't want to miss anything. But they're kind of the leftovers. I had some extra money, and I figured that they would be a helpful addition to my army. There's my second company of the Marksmen. I've also got 2 Herdsmen of Hithlum. They're fantastic hybrids. They have a little bit of ammunition, about 5, but they're also armor-piercing axemen with a really solid charge bonus, and their armor, well, I mentioned that they're armor-piercing, so yeah, 2-headed axes. It pierces armor, it's what they do. Got 2 of them, really strong reserve units, and I've also got them led by the Sons of Turin, who are fantastic. It's a really, really high-quality model, and you know what? People seem super jazzed by the Sons of Turin, and, you know, as you should be. Actually, you can see Turin himself right here. He is, wearing the Dragon Helm of Dor-lómin. That's how you can kind of pick him out from amongst the ranks of his bodyguardsmen. And that is going to do for my army. I don't think I've forgotten anything. Nope, should be good. So let's move on now to my ally. That being the House of Fingolfin, being played by Melkon. KOT is actually it's kind of nice. It's the first Silmarillion dedicated clan that I've seen pop up. They are the Knights of Turin. And if you're interested in joining up with them, just stop by our Discord. I believe Belagost is their leader, but you can always talk to Melkon or anybody, and they'll point you in the right direction. So we have 2 units here of the Bridge Wards of Nargothrond, heavy pikemen. Actually the best pikes in the game, bar none, currently. You can see 2 of them right there. He's also got Wardens of Nargothrond. These are armor-piercing spearmen. They can actually upgrade their armor in addition to, and become extremely tanky. They, in a lot of ways, I feel, epitomize the Fingolfin approach to war. And you've got 2 of them in there. He's also brought 3 units of the Swordsmen of Turin, and this is the unit that I kind of wanted to talk about. So, they have projectiles, as you can see. They are javelins, as you can probably also see. They are not armor-piercing. These guys use an infantry template, so their melee stats are higher. They're better suited to combat on the front lines, and their projectiles are usually a good thing to have against unarmored or very lightly armored opponents. There are some unarmored units. Shock infantry, like medium kind of shock infantry that don't have really high armor bonuses. You can get a lot of value off of them with these guys, etc., etc. So there are a lot of really good targets that they can focus down on.
Obviously, if you get them behind somebody, it's going to be huge because you'll be able to avoid the shield value.
But the armor piercing does have a shield that it halves it. It cuts it in half. I realize with my accent that's not an easy distinction to make. But it cuts the armor value in half. So from the front, these guys will be nowhere near as effective as the Marines of Vinyamar, for example, but they do have a place. They do occupy a very specific role, and of course they're infantry afterwards, which is something that the House of Finarfin does quite well. He's got 2 units here of the Archers of Talathirin as well. These are medium archers. And 2 companies of the Marksmen of Nargothrond. These are heavy archers with a split shot. Very scary, especially against unarmored foes or masses of enemy infantry. Although, if you can get them shooting into the rear or into the flank of somebody or at an unshielded unit, they will do extremely well. They're kind of an all-purpose unit, but they are very limited in ammunition, so that's a big part of kind of how that unit is balanced. Here we have 2 bodyguard units, Sartor Findarato. That is the Quenya name for something I can't remember. Something about Finrod Felagund, who this unit is supposed to represent. Currently, he is not a general in the mod, but it will happen eventually, I'm sure. Here we have the Arqueni Mormagilwa, which is the Knights of the Black Sword. And eventually, when Finrod has been added, the model you can see here, that is currently the default general, that is Turin, wearing his dwarf mask from Nargothrond. That is not the dragon helm, obviously. That's just a dwarf mask. He's going to be an officer in the Arqueni Mormagilwa. So you're going to see lots of mighty heroes on the battlefield. Eventually in Silmarillion Total War, we just got to get there. But that's going to do for our army compositions. Let's pop across the field and see what our opponents brought. First army we've got here is House of Feanor, commanded by Alexander 10Q, one of our testers. He has brought 2 units of the Hunters of Kelegorm. The ferocious, pink-armored Eldar, which will be changing eventually. I will be getting rid of some of the pink in these units, some of the white that's kind of like inherent in the textures, and I'm going to make them a lot more red. And I'm probably also going to switch the mounts. I have some mounts that I was thinking about maybe using from Call of Warhammer, which I think are a little bit more unique and appropriate, I guess is a good word. So you'll see them. But yeah, 2 units of the Hunters of Kelegorm here. Really strong Lancer unit. Requeni, also going to get a new mount. But as they are right now, super strong. This is a scary unit. These are the only knights in the game. Only Lance Knights, rather. And damn, are they ferocious. Over here, we have Mounted Company of Kurufin. They actually got a little bit of a buff in the test patch. Their accuracy was increased by about 9%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it does make a difference. And they also got an extra volley with their javelins. So they are fairly good as skirmishers. They're not going to, kill a ton of people, especially on the move when they're not very accurate. But they're also competent melee cavalry. They're actually really good melee cavalry, on par with, despite the fact that they're mid-tier, they're very much on par with a lot of high-tier cavalry in the game. Moving on over here, we have the foot-based forces of the House of Feanor. Got some footmen of Amaras here. We're actually going to be changing up the chainmail on this. I have some elven chainmail that's kind of like leaf-shaped that I got from Castellan and Angmar. So we'll be changing the way this unit looks a little bit in the future. We have their armor upgrade here as well, footmen of Amaras. And then 2 units of Defenders of Aglon. So some really nasty 2-handed infantry here. They are about on par with the Swordmaster units from the House of Feanor, or the House of Fingolfin rather. But pardon me. Fingolfin does also have a few things that make them unique and powerful. The armor on these guys is better, but they have less numbers, and the House of Feanor have higher skill, and they also have a minor deflection bonus for missiles. Sort of like a passive shield value that you can't see from the front only, and these guys do not have that. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. We have some of the Otorn Maitimo, the Oathsworn of Mithros, which is a really cool name, and I'm glad we settled on that one. You can see the default general here for the Sons of Feanor. Eventually, Mithros will be an officer in this unit, which is going to be pretty cool. But that's a matter of time. I know that Sin of the Darkcloud is currently working on a model for Mithros, but let's move on. I'm dithering a little bit here. I just like to tell you about these things because I'm excited. So forgive me. But in any case, Cursed of Aquilande, this is the, if you want to call them Regiment of Renown, go for it. I personally call them Legendary Companies because I don't want to get sued. I don't know. Games Workshop, or rather, Creative Assembly might take issue with that. But yeah, these are the Cursed of Alquilande. They cannot be stunned, so they are just absolutely relentless monsters in melee. Their armor bonus is, or their armor value rather, is about the same as an upgraded version of Defenders of Aglon, but you don't pay for it. And their melee defense is a little bit lower. But they do cause fear, and they do have some bonuses to terrain that the other units don't have. And they also have a minor Inspire bonus of +2 and 25 meters. So they do a lot of things, but they are extremely susceptible to armor piercing. Armor piercing wipes these guys out. Lancer charges wipe these guys out. Yeah, they're potentially very scary, but you do need to be careful with how you use them. He's also brought 2 companies here of the Shield Bearers of Hellevorn. These are warriors drawn from the House of Beor. Currently I have the wrong logo on their shield, but I will fix that eventually, probably. I don't know, I kind of like it. It's pretty. I know you probably wouldn't have even noticed if I hadn't said anything. Ugh, what a fool I was. Anyway, moving on to his ally, we have the army here of General Artorius Waifu. Or just Artorius. I don't know. I assume he prefers just Artorius. That's what I call it. He is our lead tester, and he's playing as the Green Elves of Osiriand. He's got a whole crap ton of Spear Host of Rathloriel. This is kind of the bread and butter unit for Osiriand. Their infantry is not impressive. They have a lot of spear units that are good for holding the line, but their power is their missile units. So you're going to see a lot of missiles facing the Elves of Osiriand. You're going to see what I mean in just a moment. But he's got 2 Spear Host of Gelion, 2 of the Erfen and Tower, which are the Nobles of the Woods, I believe. They are actually Lock Morale shock infantry that have a missile that they can use before they launch themselves into combat. They are extremely potent. The thing that they lack, however, is numbers. They take a penalty of their numbers, and they don't have great melee defense. So, if you use them improperly, or to like kind of cut down chaff instead of like hunting down high-value targets, then you may end up losing them before that kind of critical moment when you really need them. We have a detachment here of Spear Host of Rathloriel, a bunch of Skirmishers of Rathloriel, and there seems to be a bit of confusion with some people regarding this unit. Skirmishers of Rathloriel are an infantry unit that happen to have a bow. They've got about 5 ammunition. If you're looking for mainline infantry archers, this is not the unit that you want. They are extremely useful as light infantry, but their missile capacity is quite low. So you have a detachment of them there, a full company of them here, and more in the back. Another detachment of them right there. Some more Erfen and Tower. A second company of Spear Host of Gelion. And we've got some more Spear Host of Rathloriel. And this is the mainline archer unit that you want to try and take advantage of. The Scouts of Gelion have higher ammunition than your regular foot archer. They are faster and they do more damage. They are very much the epitome of the Green Elf way of war. And in a lot of ways, I think that they are kind of a bread and butter unit. They do wield daggers, so they're actually armor piercing in close quarters. But their base damage is very, very low. However, their melee defense is very high. So they're an interesting unit. They're not an easy one to charge down unless you manage to hit them from the rear. But they are extremely susceptible to being shot at. They are not amazing when fighting against skilled heavy infantry. But they are quick, they are deadly, and if you use them well, they will never let you down. Let's see, I know he's got a couple of hunters. Indeed, he does. So these are dedicated skirmishers. Again, we come back to this. They are armor piercing. Their melee stats, however, are lower than the Spear Host of Rathloriel. So they are not as good as a Spear Host in close quarters, but they have 3 volleys of armor piercing javelins, which is something that cannot really be understated. Moving on over here, we have the final elements of Artorius' army. 2 units of the Mythern and Tol Galen, a unit that I am particularly fond of. I happen to love them and the way that they look. They are a mace bodyguard. They don't have a lot of armor. They've got about 9, which is the highest in the Green Elf faction, but basically the standard heavy infantry value for basically every other faction in the game. They've got an okay shield value, and they have their maces, as I mentioned, which makes them armor piercing and melee. They are extremely expensive, and they are low in number. So, they come at a cost, a literal cost of a buttload of gold. You're going to see 2 of them right there. And that's basically it. So let me just turn it up a little bit here, and I'm going to explain our strategy, because I'm sure many of you are going to like call me out in the comment section over this. Our composition doesn't have a ton of mobility, especially with the House of Finarfin. However, the strength of both the Elves of Osiriand and the House of Feanor is their mobility. In the case of the House of Feanor, it's their cavalry. In the case of Osiriand, it's their quick, fast-moving missile units, and they also have some really good cavalry, which I don't think I mentioned. There's actually 2 hidden companies of the Riders of DUEL, so Lancers here, which I was expecting to see on the field. It's a lot of cav for a faction to face down factions that have maybe 2 cavalry. At most, we could have brought 2 cavalry. So we decided we weren't going to try and play our enemy's game. If we did that, we were surely going to get annihilated. So what we decided instead is to play to our strengths. And our strengths are absolutely our infantry. So we want them to come to us. We're willing to kind of weather this storm here as best as we're able in order to force our enemies into a fight with us on our terms. And I know it's not super glorious, yeah, we have our back to the mountain, but that's to limit the movement of the cavalry and the ability of the Green Elves, especially the Green Elves, to get behind us and fire into our exposed rear and basically annihilate us from range while we can't do anything about it, because they're too fast for me to catch without cavalry. And even then, they have cavalry that can go toe-to-toe with mine. They have a ton of spear units. Yeah, gotta be careful. So that's basically why we're doing what we're doing. You can see Artorias is already kind of zeroed in on some potential weaknesses here, and he's using the terrain to fire into the rear of my poor sentries of Hithlum. And there's not a ton that I can really do about that. Our plan so far is to just weather the storm as best as we're able, and I am going to like move some of my units and position them such that this is where a lot of his skirmishers are stacked right now. So I'm comfortable moving these guys to face them. Got a lot of units here to face them. A lot of my shielded units here on the front lines, and I'll probably move some of my other shielded units here to kind of like block, like maybe put them along the back like this. I could probably do that with my Armitar. I don't think I do though. It would have been a good idea, but unfortunately not. And the Armitar kind of blocked for them. But we're just gonna sit here and kind of take it for a little bit. So I'm gonna take it into full speed, and Artorias will be shuffling his skirmishers in and out, kind of attacking the chinks in our armor, like the elbow joints and the eyes and things like that, which is exactly what you want to do. If the Green Elves come in and just go full force against my infantry line, I will crush them. Absolutely, not even a question. They will die, and there will be nothing they can do about it. So what he's doing now is actually very smart. Looking for those weaknesses. I can't cover everything, and I'm willing to let these units... The attrition that they were taking wasn't terrible. You know, 4 or 5 men of volley kind of thing. I'm willing to let them weaken this point. I've got infantry reserves. I've got enough here to kind of like be a problem for them, even if they manage to weaken my phalanx on my center. So I'm willing to let these guys take those casualties in order to soak and eat up some of that Green Elf ammo. Because once that's gone, the Green Elves are in trouble. They don't have the infantry strength to break through a layered defense on my side, much less against the House of Finarfin. If we had kind of switched positions here, I think they would have been a little bit better. But we wouldn't. I don't think we would have had time to do that. But the House of Finarfin being on this side probably would have done better against the Green Elves because they have more skirmishers with a good amount of ammo. They can go toe-to-toe with them at range far better than I can. I did bring a lot of archers, and I promised to return to this earlier. I did bring a fair amount of archers because this was kind of going to be our strategy pretty well from the get-go, is fight together, try and outlast. And the skirmishers are valuable, but I don't want to use all their ammunition here. So I'm being very conservative with my ammunition. I could target down some of these skirmishers. I could go for these, well, maybe some of these other units here in the back. But one of the things that I'm genuinely horrified that I may face is rangers. Because if he has rangers, it's going to hurt a lot. So I've decided to do a little bit of shifting here, a little bit of indecision on my part. I was going to bring these guys back behind here and be like, haha, now you can't shoot them. But ultimately I think I decided it didn't really matter anyway. So now I'm going to face them towards their attackers and slightly angle them such that anything over here is also, because I can see there's like a Griffin and Tower and stuff like that coming in. Anything over from this direction will probably also hit their shields. Again, we're just trying to outlast here, and if I have to sacrifice a unit of pikes to do that, then I'm more than happy to. So far, it's pretty quiet. The House of Feanor, they're taking a position, but honestly, they're really stonewalled. And I think what they're gonna... This is at least what I thought in game. What they're gonna want to do is try and pull us out of position somehow. Or they can use their cavalry, and they don't have to face a staunch wall of spears. We got some mounted company here, taking pot shots. Probably at the bridge forts. That would make the most sense. No, they're actually going after the wardens. The wardens will be able to stand up to that reasonably well. Actually, they're only going to put light casualties. And the mounted company are going to be forced back in a hail of arrows. They're going to flee out of there, and you can't blame them for that at all. We're basically fully encircled at this point. And Artorias, these guys now out of ammunition. No. This is where we decide to change tack a little bit. Because Artorias has a lot of skirmishers, and if we can like bait him into a fight, because that's my strategy, right? I want to get him into a fight with me as quickly as possible, but he's not just going to take any engagement. So as he moves forward like this, he's getting a little bit cocky, I think, with his skirmishers, and it might be that his strategy is the same, that he wants to like pick a fight with my infantry to try and pull me out of position. But I have the numbers here to like layer up, and I can open up a front here and still protect myself pretty well. So I think that might have been the strategy here in trying to like get these guys so close that he really wants to like bait a charge from me. But if it came down to that, that's still a fight that I can win. You can see that they're going to advance even closer, and the bait is there, right? And this is what they want. They want me to move forward. He wants to use his cavalry. He wants to use like his javelins and like flanking attacks and things like that, but I'm gonna try to not give him that opportunity. So I'm gonna advance here with my birdsmen. I'm gonna quickly take up position here. And at the same time as I'm doing that, I'm gonna bring another unit of birdsmen up, and I'm gonna close out this gap here between the front line that I'd set up for myself earlier and the unit that I have here on the flank. And I brought in lots of reinforcements and supporting units, Marines of Vinyamar nearby, and I've got a phalanx in support as well. Like a full unit here of my sentries and a full unit of bladesmen. I'm confident that I can win this fight, so I'm going to move forward here, take down these skirmishers, and my spearmen are going to start poking them to death. Unfortunately, I overextend a little bit, and we do leave a gap present in our line, which is something that will become significant later. But I'm bringing in Armitar as well, and I can see that he's going to move more and more of his infantry in. And this is kind of what I want, because at least now we're having a fight on my terms, and it's not me getting shot to death forever. We still have a few skirmishers, I think, but now he's brought all of his light infantry out into the open. I can exploit this a little bit. So over here, you have Mithrin moving forward. They're going to take a couple of volleys from my javelins, and that's going to even out that fight a little bit. I'm going to move in to support with my phalanx, which is something that the Green Elves don't have an answer to. They have spear hosts, but they are just two-handed spears, not actual pikemen, so I still have the advantage there. So once the Mithrin take a couple of volleys, see the Hunters of Rathloriel moving into position, I'm going to switch tack quickly with my Marines of Vinyamar, trying to eliminate this threat if I can. So some volleys going into the front there, ripping through this unit. Like 12 or so of them die in that volley. There's still a second company, but I've also got, if you look back here, I've got some supporting units. My marksmen, my 2 units of marksmen, they're actually focusing down here on these lightly armored Green Elves, but eventually I will switch them to fight against the Hunters of Rathloriel. And they're doing okay. They're tossing at my phalanx, but my bladesmen are actually blocking a lot of the shots for them, so we are able to mitigate that damage, and in return, we've killed probably about 24, a little bit more than that, maybe about 27, more now. A good amount off that unit of Hunters. They're not going to lose their ammunition, but it will limit the amount of damage they can do very quickly, and it will mean that there's less Green Elves for us to deal with later. So these Hunters here winding up, again doing the same thing, but my spearmen are doing just fine here. They're actually pushing hard against the Mithrin, and over here, their spear host is beating out my spearmen. Well, that's kind of okay. They're just there to be irritating. And we've got some Mithrin and Tolgolan over here, and then I have some more reserves that I can begin to mobilize. So I think at this point I'm just kind of shooting at them a little bit with maybe some of my reserve units. Oh no, okay, I am going to move forward here. We're going to move and try and like close out this little gap here in our lines. The forces of Nargothrond are moving forward, but this, I really want to talk about this. This is a mistake. There's 3 units here of Stalkers, which I totally forgot to mention. He's moving them forward like this, and they are quick, but there's everything that the stalkers hate to face. There's a lot of cavalry here. This is an absolute waste of a huge number of his infantry, and his supporting units are way too far behind. So my ally here, Melkon, is very, very overextended. What he needed was some shielded units here to defend his bridge wards. That's like 100% necessary. Could have used some of his swordsmen for that, and use them to advance, and then come in with the stalkers in reserve. But now, they're going to get charged down, and that's going to be a massacre. Oh, look at that. They're just dying by, like, the dozens, and it's a complete waste of time. There's a lot of archers out here that will shoot these guys down. This is just an absolute misstep on the part of my ally. But he's moving forward with some of his other units as well. You can see Wardens of Nargoth around here, Swordsmen of Talathirnin, and some other units here in reserve, Wardens plus some Swordsmen of Talathirnin. And his archers are doing a good job at laying down supporting fire. So it's not all a massacre, but that is a huge misplay there on the part of my ally. Sentries of Hithlum moving forward, along with the Bladesmen of Barad Ithel, and they're moving to relieve this poor Ferdsman of Dorloman unit. The Spearhosts are doing just fine, the Mythern are doing just fine. They've basically taken no casualties. These guys are just kind of there to keep them in place so more important units can come in later. My Spearmen here are holding the line, and this is where things start to look a little bit ugly. So, my Bladesmen and other such things here are starting to lose ground in the face of the Green Elves. Even though the Mythern are being quite handily defeated, there's a lot of support in the back here from the Spearhost, and it is starting to take its toll a little bit. And my Sentries of Hithlum, they don't like it. They're tired of this. They don't want to get skewered with javelins, but unfortunately they don't have a choice in the matter, and more fire coming in from those Hunters of Wrath of Loria. Over here, he's tried to overload the wing with a ton of light infantry, but however, it does open opportunities for my archers to now focus fire him. Some of these units are shielded, some of them are not. The shielding on the archers is about 7, and the shielding on the infantry is 7, and the damage on the archers is 6. So it does stack up fairly nicely, but this is kind of where things are important. And I can see him wanting to exploit this, so I'm trying to shoot these guys in the rear, cut through as much of that light cavalry as I possibly can, because I know what he wants to do. And I'm already mobilizing reserves here. You can see a big movement. I've got my Sons of Húrin kind of leading the way. I've got Ferdsmen of Dorloman in the center here. And I've also got some Marines of Vinyamar awaiting the advance of the Sons of Húrin, and they're going to move up together. In addition, Marksmen of Barad Ithel, running a little bit low on ammo at this point, but they are a functional infantry reserve. And so he's brought both of his units of cavalry over here. He's going to try and exploit this gap and get through here as quickly as possible. And I'm really holding my own by a thread here. I brought the Marines of Vinyamar in after they used all their ammunition, but they are kind of fighting an uphill battle against the Green Elves there, so it's not going amazing for them. A few of my Armitar are going to get skewered as they try to push through. Knocked over. I'm sure some of them will fall here. But this is where he's just going to use the mass of those cavalry to try and push through. So let's go ahead and speed it up just a little bit here. And I was kind of waiting to see where he'd move so I could turn that unit around and try and get their melee defense bonus from the front. And you can see that there's a lot of units back here, and I think he wanted my Marines of Vinyamar. He definitely wanted to charge them down, but there's Sons of Húrin in there. So instead, he's going to turn around and go for the Marines that I have stationed over here. And unfortunately, it was a little bit of a laggy game, so when I clicked on them to turn around, they only just did so as the cavalry impacted them. Nonetheless, it is kind of an anemic charge. Not going to do a ton of damage to my units, and at the same time, these guys are turning around and still getting shot. So we're putting a lot of pressure on this cavalry right now. And one of them is down to about 38. He's going to move through with some Hunters of Rathloriel now, try and make sure that he maintains a foothold. But I've got troops here that are scary, and they're going to hack their way through the Green Elves, quite literally, like firewood, like kindling. These two-handed psychopaths, the Sons of Húrin, mad lads they are, charging into the rear of these Outriders of DUEL. They do not care at all. They are locked morale. They will fight through anything. And all the while, my archers are plinking away. So he's going to try and go for a charge here to even things out a little bit. But I will turn around a lot of my spearmen. And while they do get a charge, they get a charge into, like, the thinnest part of my line, and, like, maybe 2 or so horsemen connect. Actually, I don't think they managed to charge there at all. I think this is a move order, and these guys just kind of got caught in a place that they didn't want to be. And all the while, again, still taking fire. So we've managed to push back the Green Elves for now, and I'm moving in with some supporting units. My Sons of Turin gonna plug that gap there, slaughter their way through the Lyquendi, and I'm gonna use the Marines of Vinyamar to target this big old blob here. And we're gonna try and turn the tides against our opponent Artorias. Moving on over this way. Bad things are happening. My Blade Masters of Barad Ithel, I tried to bring them into the center because a massive gap opened up in our line here because of the unsustainable advance of my ally. He's doing alright. Where the pikes are, they're doing just fine. But he doesn't have... Yeah, these guys are really overextended too, so they're just kind of out front here, whereas the pikes are just kind of standing around. But he doesn't really have the infantry needed to like follow up on this in a lot of places. He does have some wardens here, which he's bringing in, but they're just massive holes in our formation. So there's some Untitled and other things being brought over to this side, but they are about to get bushwhacked by some scary-ass heavy infantry. 2 companies, fully upgraded, of the Defenders of Aglon, pushing their way towards their position. Sartor Findorato, overextended as heck, taking on the whole enemy army on their own. Commendable bravery. Wardens of Nargothr are moving in as well, but they are super exposed here. And I think there's just a lot of chaos here, and that kind of characterizes my allies' advance a little bit. I'm not trying to be too harsh, but that is definitely the case. And he's starting to pull it back a little bit so far, but I don't know how long that's going to hold out for him. These pikes kind of need to advance forward and begin to pressure some of these units and maybe save the Arquenian Megillua. Over here, the shield bearers have taken about 40 or so losses, and now they're moving over, maybe to try and exploit this gap here, or maybe to try and help out the Green Elves. And it says the Green Elves are winning, but honestly, don't put too much stock in what the AI decides is going to be the result of this battle, because I have pikes, he does not. That's basically an instant win for me there, especially against the Green Elves. Yeah, focusing down on some of his second line. Got the Scouts of Gelion here, who are feeling the wrath of my Herdsmen of Hithel. And then over here, I've managed to plug things again. He's going to come through with the Outriders of DUEL. They're again going to get stuck, and they're again going to feel the wrath of my archers. And my Marines of Vinyamar starting to pull things back. But unfortunately I wasn't able to turn them around in time. Probably another latency issue there. But again, a really anemic charge. There's just too much stuff in the way for these guys to really be effective here. And my Marines of Vinyamar are going to take a handful of casualties. And then they're going to turn around, and they are pissed. I've also got my supporting units as well. Marines of Vinyamar trying to focus down this blob. But they're actually going to hit some of these Lyquendi Outriders as well. And again, Artorias is going to be forced back with his cavalry. Oh yeah, big charge coming down here. Is the Armatar, who are kind of holding back the front along with the Marines. And I'm still trying to plug this gap, but it's only a matter of time. The Sons of Turin are going to massacre the Hunters of Rathloriel. That's not even a question. They've got about 3 times the attack that these guys have in melee defense. So that'll be sad times for the Lyquendi. And over here, we're definitely beating them back. Right here, where the Herdsmen are, they're struggling a bit, but they are starting to pull it back here against the Spearhouse of Rathloriel. It says defeat is a distinct possibility, so I guess mutually assured destruction is on the menu for those 2 spear units. Spearhouse of Gelion, taking some casualties here against my pikemen. And honestly, they don't have the infantry here to beat my pikes and my Bladesmen Baron Ithel. It's only a matter of time before this section of the line falls apart, but I am having to commit more and more units into this gap to try and prevent my ally from being completely annihilated. So my Blade Masters of Barad Ithel moving forward, and they're gonna bite off a little bit more than they can chew, but there's only so much. I maybe should have kept them back. I don't know. It's hard to say. I try to support my allies as best as I'm able to, but in this case, it feels a little bit like throwing good money after bad, because this is not a tenable position at all. Not with a thin line of Blade Masters in any case. But yeah, here they come. Kick things into full speed. An absolute pandemonium is going to break out in the center here. Just elves of every denomination alongside their Edain allies. And this is what really caught my attention, because I wanted that Feanor general. I wanted to kill his ass real good and cause panic amongst the Sons of Feanor and give my ally a chance to maybe break some of them. But there's Erfin and Tower mixed in here as well. And my Blade Masters are really overextended, and they've already taken massive casualties. They need help, for sure. I think some of my Herdsmen are starting to run out of ammunition now. They'll start to pull out their two-handed axes soon enough. Yeah, I got some herdsmen of them. And there goes the Finarfin general. That's bad news, bears. But I've got my herdsmen of Hithlum here, and they're going to rush forward. And as the Green Elves begin to break through, they're going to meet the wrath of some of the better trained and better armed men of Hithlum. Also bringing in some more reinforcements over here. My marksman Barrett Eiffel now out of ammunition. Throwing them in as an infantry reserve. Sons of Turin finally getting a piece of these Outriders of DUEL. And that is not at all where these light cavalrymen want to be. These guys cause fear. If they stick around for too long, they will be routed off. Spearhouse of Rath L'Oriel getting massacred. My marksman of Barrett Eiffel moving in, and they're going to plug this gap now. We finally managed to get rid of this Lyquendi foothold, and we're actually beating them soundly now. You can see, based on what they had before, our missile fire and our focus fire and our shuffling in of our reserves has been enough. And now the Green Elves are in trouble, basically everywhere. They came to an infantry party armed with spearmen. It's a bit like bringing a gun to a knife fight. And they are being slowly but surely beaten back. He does still have some scouts of Galleon, and that is certainly not a negligible thing to have. But his infantry force is ragged at this point, and they are very much in danger of being annihilated. And they're also kind of cut off from their ally a little bit. And there goes the Green Elf General. That's bad news, bears. That's going to send a ripple of panic throughout the remaining forces. I've got some of my reserves now shuffling the other direction. You can see Herdsman of Hithlum, Marksman of Barrett Eiffel. I'm kind of winning over there, so now I can start to pull out more of my units. You can see a few of them coming in. And we'll look at them in a second. These guys try to charge into my exposed flank, but they're actually going to get held up by some of the Blade Masters that they just massacred. So even in death, these guys are still able to serve. Now it looks like maybe they're trying to go after these units here. I think that's going to be the case. Marksman of Barrett Eiffel, they don't care. They're up for the challenge, and they're going to charge right in. And smash into those Urfinen Tower. And as I mentioned, you're going to start to see the low melee defense of the Urfinen Tower here come into play. Their attack is formidable. It is devastating. But they don't have staying power. And that's kind of their big drawback. And so they lost about 10 or so of their men here. They're going to try and go for the original charge that they wanted. However, help has arrived. Marines of Vinyamar already charging in. They're not going to let these guys get into the flank and rear of their fellows. And they're going to blunt that charge hard. And now we've managed to kind of present a united front here. And the Sons of Turin are in the fray as well. Got more marksmen at Barrett Eiffel. They are the forces here that we need to try and like set up a contiguous line and present some united resistance against our foes. The House of Nargothrond absolutely massacring their way through some of the cavalry here with that split shot. Although I think it would have been better served firing at these Accursed of Aquilonde, absolutely. They are shooting at them with some of their medium archers. And I can understand why they want to destroy this cavalry, but I have some support here. Herdsmen of Hithlum gonna do their thing. Swordsmen of Talath Dearnan, I kind of think that this wasn't the right choice of unit for this fight. Because they're not armor-piercing javelins, there's not really a lot that they can get done against some of the more heavily armored and well-shielded infantry units that the Sons of Feanor often bring. So there's not really much point to having these guys. They're good against the Stalkers of Thargelion, but that's a low-tier unit and not really a big threat. And there's a lot of things that are good against them. So I probably would have opted to bring some more spears. And then he'd have some infantry here that he could use to kind of zone out the Roqueni and the Hunters, and to make their lives a little bit difficult. Firing into the front is not really going to be super effective. It will hit them. It could potentially kill them, but the odds are certainly not in their favor. And now these hungry hippos are going to charge in there and start eating up all these Marksmen of Nargothrond. That's bad news, bears. These are some really important assets. Don't want to lose them. Meanwhile, back on the front, it's just chaos. Look at this. This is insanity. There's just elves of all descriptions here, slugging it out in no particular formation. Everyone is just piling in, wave after wave after wave. And the Sons of Turin on the front lines, they're having troubles. And actually, this is a big thing. I saw the Otorn Maitimo out in the open, and I'm like, all right, that is an opportunity there. So I threw them in here against these guys. But both the Sons of Feanor and their allies, the Green Elves, have committed heavily to defend them. And now what we'd really like, right here in particular, is some archers. Some split-shot archers firing into the big blob. Charge from the rear here. It's going to hurt a lot of my my Sons of Turin. It's going to kill like 6 or 7 units. But they're going to make them pay for it for sure. Dead Knights, Dead Hunters of Caligorm. They're going to try to escape there. And they will manage to get out, but they're super exposed. They were very much in danger of being caught out by my Herdsmen of Hithlum, but unfortunately I wasn't able to make good on that. Meanwhile, Scouts of Gelion in the back still plinking away, still causing problems, and now these Herdsmen of Hithlum are going to run smack dab into the middle of some Sons of Feanor reinforcements who have just finished cleaning out my ally. His pikes are gone. Those would have been a lovely thing to have here. And my Herdsmen of Hithlum are sorely overmatched, but luckily, help is on the way. This Armitar unit actually has my general in it, so his presence is going to stabilize them. That extra morale from the from both the general being nearby and alive, and from the unit itself is going to be lovely. Roqueni Magloro, some great cat play here, charging against my poor beleaguered herdsmen. And I can see the Urfin and Tower coming in, so I'm going to have them mount a countercharge. And it's actually going to get blunted there for the poor Urfin and Tower, and then they're going to feel the wrath of the men of Hithlum. And they're going to kind of just butcher each other. The Herdsmen of Hithlum trade extremely efficiently with the Urfin and Tower, so I wasn't worried about losing them too much, as I knew that they would do a lot of damage. You can see the numbers dropping extremely quickly. This is on like half speed too. That's a lot of casualties done very, very quickly. But my lines are getting very thin. I got Bladesmen of Baradithel that I moved in to try and contest things, and they're going to go toe-to-toe with the Footmen of Amras, and they'll beat them like 9 times out of 10. They will show them the door. But unfortunately, there's just not enough of them. Not going to be enough to deal with these kind of counterfeit units. Yeah, look at them fall left and right there. And this is where bad things are happening too. We've also got a lot of cavalry here, so you can see some breaking in my back lines. Some of the Outriders of DUEL managed to survive, and I have no more missile units with which to pressure them. And all my reserves are committed, so we're very exposed. I've brought over all of my victorious forces from wiping out Artorias' Green Elf army, but unfortunately I rushed in to save my ally, and I wasn't able to consolidate the victory. And you're kind of seeing the results of that here. Got Centaurs of Hithlum moving in to try and contest things. And under normal circumstances, if they weren't getting shot constantly by the Scouts of Gelion, this would have been a huge misplay on the part of Alexander. But unfortunately, there's just too much going in the favor of the Sons of Feanor. You're going to see some of the knights there that die, but the Centuries of Hithlum are going to break. And that's a big, big loss for me right there. Just a constant harassment. I am managing to like turn around and like fight them. I'm fighting in multiple places at once. And again, you're going to see the Roqueni Magloro here. It's just a really foolish use of your knights. And they're going to kill off like half of this unit in pretty well quick succession. But some more units are going to come from behind, and the missile fire and the presence of everything else, and again it's going to go against them. But again, that's just a really reckless and kind of foolish way to use your cavalry, charge headlong into pikemen. Even if this one time it happened to work out, 9 times out of 10 that will not be the result. Otoran Mightymo fighting in a very strung out line here with what remains of the host of Hithlum, but we're having trouble. The Sons of Turin are quite low at this point. Ooh, and they are chopping their way through the Otoran Mightymo. But unfortunately, the gambit didn't pay off, and I wasn't able to slaughter the Feanor general. If I had been lucky enough to get him, I think we would have been able to maybe rout off some of these troops here and begin to pressure the Green Elves a bit more. But the writing is kind of on the wall. It's still quite even. There's only about, there's a 6% difference. It's not massive. But at this late stage in the game, there's a lot that's not really going in our favor anymore. Back here I got my Marines of Vinyamar. I'm trying to do something about these Scouts of Gelion, but it's a little bit too late. They've had way too much time to fire. But I didn't have a ton of options. And I probably should have brought my Marines over here where they could be a bit more effective. But, you know, hindsight. Being 20/20 and all that. Scouts of Gelion clashing with my Marines. I think the high melee defense and the fact that these guys are fresh versus the winded and the numbers as well is going to see them through this. It won't be super easy. But my Marines of Vinyamar will ultimately be overwhelmed here. Oh yeah, I can see him just skewering one of those scouts of Galleon. Yeah, and stay down. But over here, it's not good. Marksmen of Nargothrond going toe-to-toe with the defenders of Agalon. Unaided, I think that they would probably win this. But there is some help coming over here. You've got some Urfinen Tower. My forces have been surrounded and largely defeated. Mostly by the Sons of Feanor infantry. Still fairly close, about 8% difference. Riders of Duelman still present, but there's not too many of them. My Sons of Hurin were able to get like a decent charge against them. Ah, here we go. One of our Blazemen squaring off against that general. I've tried to kill this general so many times throughout this match, and I was just not having any luck. Actually, before this, he got knocked over by a rear attack from one of the Sons of Hurin, the one who's now getting massacred by this bodyguardsman right here. He managed to survive that one. And then a small number of Green Elf survivors are going to push forwards, and they're going to wipe out what's left of my infantry. And it's basically game over at this point. There's still some troops fighting over here for Finarfin. Small number of Wardens of Nargothrond. And I think there's also some Swordsmen of Talithdirnan, but we're going to kick it into full speed again. Oh, there we go. The Accursed of Aquilon and everything else that's over here. They're going to make short work of these guys. It was a fairly close game.
Our brash general has been
and there goes my general, unfortunately.
Unless we defeat our foes quickly, his fate rests with the enemy.
It's going to be about a 10% or so difference by the end of this. Go ahead and speed it up just a bit.
Our army's running from the field.
I think my forces have been fully defeated by now. Not surprising that Finarfin are going to be the last elves, I suppose, standing. It's kind of what they're built for. And more reinforcements are going to come over here. We're going to swarm against them. And it was a good game. There was a lot of like counterplay by both sides, and I thought it was quite a fun matchup. It ended up being pretty close too, but a 9% difference there at the end. And I think the biggest problem, and you can kind of see it from the kills here, is that the advance of the House of Finarfin was kind of a mess, and it really does reflect in the performance at the end. They barely managed to kill 1,000 of the Sons of Feanor units, and more than that, there was Green Elves and stuff fighting against them. We managed to wipe out the Green Elves, but they were losing so heavily that I rushed over to try and help out. But I think what I should have done is consolidated my destruction of the Green Elves, pushed against their remaining archers, wiped them out, and then tried to take on the Sons of Feanor, because there was a lot of attrition from just being consistently shot by the Scouts of Galleon, and I think that was, even after my ally was getting overwhelmed, I think that we still might have been able to eke out a win. It would have been really, really close. We might have been able to pull it off if we had killed the Green Elf skirmishers instead of just immediately rushing to the other side. That I think was our biggest mistake. But our ally definitely had some issues there as well. Particularly his advance with the Stalkers. That was a waste of a lot of money. That's nearly like 2,500 florins or something out of a 14k budget. It's a lot. And to waste them like that it was not great. It did not bode well for our prospects. And there were some composition issues as well. But again, Melkon is a little bit newer, so like I'm not trying to be like horrible to him or anything. But yeah, point it out and then we can learn from it. So yeah, really well played to my opponents, well played to Melkon as well. And I did okay. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this so far. Take a quick look at the casualties inflicted and sustained and so forth. And you can see that most of my units did reasonably well. Even my Ferdsmen did okay. Like, look at that. There's like 42 kills, 43 kills on Lyquendi, who are they're fairly numerous, but still, they can't really afford to fight wars of attrition for extended periods of time. Yeah, most of my army did pretty well, with the exception of, I think, there was like a Blade Master or Barrett Eithel unit that really didn't pay for itself with 27 kills. But that's kind of to be expected. I probably shouldn't have put them into the gap in the center there. I should have pulled them back or like sent them over to where I was winning and, you know, tried to finish off my opponent before trying to rush and save my ally. But in any case, my name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you join me for whatever comes next. And what comes next will probably be a reforged scenario. I have a 4v4 Gondor versus Harad game that I'm really eager to show to you guys. So that'll be coming up next. We may have a stream in the meantime as well. I might do some streaming. I won't have time to do it tomorrow morning. Maybe later on in the day. Or if I get up really early tomorrow, I can do a stream for like an hour or two before I go out. But yeah, hope you guys enjoy this. I'll see you next time. Take care.